Time for our book review segment. As we mark Men's Health Month this November, South Africa is once again opening conversations about masculinity and mental health accountability and just the role that men play at large in shaping families and communities. And so we're going to be delving into a book that sparks some of those conversations when it comes to national dialogue, continues to also influence how men see themselves and how society sees men. What happens when men are disconnected from their purpose, from the identity and the emotional maturity at large? So, Force for Good is a book written by Craig Wilkinson. The author joins us virtually to chat a little bit further. Craig, good morning, and thank you for your time at this hour.
Good morning, Lisa. Always good to be with you.
Well, Craig, you have really done a stellar job in highlighting what's at stake, given the reality in our country. This book, it confronts one of South Africa's deepest wounds, and that is of fatherlessness. You write that when a father's absent, when a father's distant, when a father is abusive, there's something that's deep in a boy's soul. It's wounded. And perhaps if we're looking at that, the reality of the ground at this point, how does it begin to shape emotional identity and the behavior in men that we're seeing on display?
Oh, it's a huge thing. You know, our belief firmly is that if we can heal men, we can heal South Africa. Absent fathers, the statistics are very, very clear. You know, when fathers are absent, children, grow up, and almost every statistic, almost every social ill is amplified enormously. You know, prison time, drug abuse, substance abuse, rape, etc., etc. So fathers are crucial. You know, South Africa, single mothers are absolute heroes in South Africa. They're carrying such an enormous burden. But the reality is that both boys and girls need both a father and a mother to be raised. And particularly boys need a father to validate them in their masculinity and teach them and model to them how to be a good man. And in the absence of that, boys grow up a little confused. You know, where do they look to for their cues on how men should behave? So it's an absolutely crucial issue for the healing of our nation.
And Craig, to your point, I mean, you argue that the real crisis isn't masculinity, but it's the absence of a positive masculinity. And so when we are imagining what positive masculinity looks like, perhaps explain a little bit more on that front. Even when you say that men are made to be dangerous, for good to prevail, it must have the ability to be dangerous to what is bad. And so obviously that's speaking to that unhealed emotional wounds that men often manifest as anger or withdrawal that we also see.
Very much so. Yeah, the journey from boy to man is a perilous one, you know, and there are many factors that play a big role in molding a boy to become what he is. You know, the father plays a massive role, the mother plays a massive role, society and his peers. And so positive, healthy masculinity loves, serves, honors, protects, does its best to provide. Unhealthy masculinity can really take one of two forms: either become very passive, fail to take responsibility, have a child and abandon that child and the mother, or it can become very aggressive, abusive and domineering. And wounded men wound others. We know that. And as you said earlier, all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to be silent. So true, authentic, good, healthy masculinity loves, serves, protects. It creates a safe environment, a safe family, a safe society, and it raises good men and raises good women. So it's absolutely crucial to a nation to have present, engaged, good fathers, mentors, and role models.
Well, and thank you for that, Craig, because a major theme that also emerges in your book is actually the strength that is needed and responsibility at large. And you actually are the view that men are wired for impact, and that when that impact is channeled for good, it actually can be used for good. But if it's not channeled for good, it becomes destructive. And you talk about character building through struggle, not protection. So what are some of those healthy challenges or those challenges that can actually build emotionally healthy men?
Yeah. Well, in years gone by, men were always inducted into manhood. Boys, there's a rites of passage, a passage from boy to manhood. And that often involved a challenge, and it often involved the proving of oneself, of one's courage. And we lack that. Boys sort of just enter into manhood. And the prevailing message around masculinity at the moment is that masculinity is trash, masculinity is toxic. And the reality is that true, authentic masculinity is a beautiful gift to humanity. Beautiful gift. We can't live without it, just as we can't live without femininity. Every one of us exists today because a man got together with a woman and they co-created us. And I think that's how the world is designed to operate, is that men and women as equals and yet stunningly different, working together to co-create the future. And that requires respect and love and safety. And so true authentic masculinity is based on character. It's not on your image or your possessions or the amount of money you earn. And really, strength for me is defined as your ability to impact the lives of others. And all of us have that. And men with their physical strength and testosterone have the ability to impact lives in an enormous way. And how we use that strength is what determines what kind of man we are. So if we're passive and don't pitch up where we should, or we're aggressive, that is not masculinity. True masculinity is one that uses its strength only for good. And that's why I say force for good.
Exactly.
So I think men have a sacred responsibility to grow their strength. The more mental, physical, emotional strength that we have, spiritual, the more power we have to do good. And so as we grow our strength and we choose to use it only for good, we make the world a better place. And you mentioned there, for instance, apartheid would never have fallen if there were not strong forces working against it. Hitler would have prevailed if the Allied forces weren't powerfully resistant to that. And so we need to be strong, and we need to use our strength to fight against what's wrong and fight for what's right. That's the bottom line.
Thank you, Craig, for speaking to that. You touched on the point about the title and being used as a force for good in communities and households, which serve as the microcosm and obviously extends into the greater society. And even just the embracing of that more emotional vulnerability, because you are speaking about, strength and perhaps of the physical attributes that men experience, but there's obviously that vulnerability and that feeling of being open and raw, but not using it to feel weak and exposed and at the mercy of. Tell us about how we reframe those narratives as well, particularly for young men at this point of feeling lost or who are feeling pressured, don't know where to go, don't know who to look out for. Where does the journey begin for them?
Well, I think the journey begins in the belief that true masculinity is a beautiful gift. That you as a man are made to be a powerful gift to this world. I say to young men at schools often that in your DNA is a rich heritage of heroism. You're designed to be that hero, so step up and be it. Of course, you can be a curse as well. So men need to know that their lives count, that they are valuable, and then we need to grow in that. And so we need to really give boys the message. You're designed to be good. You're designed to be a force. You talked about vulnerability, and the truth is that men need to there are two elements to masculinity, if you had to simplify it. One is the warrior. Now, the warrior steps up and stands up and takes it on the chin, takes responsibility, does what he needs to do. And there are times when it's not appropriate for the warrior to cry. For instance, when his daughter is feeling insecure and needs her father, etc. But that's only one half of masculinity. The other half is the lover. And the lover is able to be vulnerable, able to care, love, cry, show emotion. The reality is it takes a lot more courage to be vulnerable. They say the biggest lie that men tell is, I'm fine, when I'm not,
Yeah.
And that's why men often commit suicide 4 times more than women. So we as men need to learn when to be the warrior, when to step up, stand up, take it on the chin, be responsible, but also when we can actually be vulnerable and caring and soft, and it's appropriate to cry. You see, it's easy for me to say I'm fine. I'm a man, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, I'm really struggling. But that takes courage, and that's true, authentic masculinity. So we have to embrace both of those sides.
Well, it's use your strength well. And thank you so much, Craig, for penning thoughts to paper and for really making this available to all of us, particularly as we look at the Men's Health Month in November. Obviously, just leaving us with a powerful reminder that it's not just about being safe, it's about being good and strong and principled as well for that healthy society and creating 100%. That healthy masculinity. Craig 100%. Wilkinson joining us this morning on our book feature, Force for Good is his latest offering. Let's leave that conversation, then be right back after this.